Hi folks, so the first of our foot series videos is going to be concentrating around this bone here, the calcaneus. You can just about see that here. So this is showing you there's the fibula, so this is on the outside edge and on the inside edge, tucks all the way under here. Now, most people recognize this as the heel bone. Just to give you some reference, this is the attachment point in here for the Achilles tendon. Super important that when we're looking at this bone, obviously we're looking at this in isolation, but actually it doesn't work in isolation. It works in conjunction with all the other bones and joints around it. So although we're going to be doing some isolations to mobilize this bone and the joints around it, I want you to bear in mind that actually it's going to be having an effect on everything else. Keep that in mind. It's also super important, if I turn it over, you can just about make out here, we have a contact point. So this point here is where both the lateral arch, the medial arch, and then from here to here we've got the transverse arch. So these 3 points form our foot tripod. This point here, again, if you reference that underneath, directly here. It's a lot further forward than most people think it's where it actually is. A lot of people are either here or kind of all the way around here. A lot of people don't have a real reference of where their heel bone is. And these 3 points are going to be super important when we're working with the mobility drills that we're going to be doing for the calcaneus. Talking of which, we're going to be doing them in 3 stages to begin with. So the first time round that we do this, you might want to follow it through the first 3 stages. Once you work out where your comfortable zone is, you can then go straight back into doing those. So step 1 is going to be where we just do a mobilization with our hands for the calcaneus. The second is where we're working in half kneeling, and then finally we're going to be moving on to doing the mobilizations in a standing position. As we're doing this, we're increasing the loading that's going through the bone and therefore strengthening the ligaments that are around it whilst mobilizing at the same time. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so we're using the right foot, so it matches up with the model that we've been using so far. You can see the calcaneus bone just in here, and we're looking around this region here. This point here on me is just there, so that's the point of my tripod that I'm going to be anchoring down with these 2 points up here, not back here, okay? It's in here that we want to be using for our tripod, just in there. Okay, so what are the axes of movement that we're going to be doing? So we're going to be taking it forward and backwards. Okay, we're going to take it side to side, and we're going to do some rotation as well. Now all these are relative to the talus bone, which you'll remember will be at the bottom of the tibia and interfacing with the calcaneus. So just in here, tibia, talus, and then calcaneus just under there. Okay, so this is our soft tissue hand mobilizations that we're going to be doing. So we're going to take these forwards and backwards. We can do that 10 to 20 times in each direction. We can take them inside and outside, and again we're going to do that 10 to 20 times, and then we're going to rotate as well. And once you feel okay with that, we're then going to move into half kneeling. So the first of our movements is going to be forwards and backwards. As we drive forwards, we want to use that point on the foot tripod, on the calcaneus, to drive through in a forwards direction. And as we come back, we want to drive through from the ball of the foot. Now you will notice, as most people have, it is easier to go backwards than it is to go forwards. And that's completely normal. If you need to increase the range of motion going forwards, the easiest way to do that is come back, find a point that feels comfortable. You're just going to hang out there for a second. And then from there, we're going to move forward again. And notice that the range of motion has increased. It might not be significant, but there will have been some increase in motion. So you can just hang out here, wherever that comfortable spot is. Just hang in there, and then we're going to take it forward again, and we're going to increase that range of motion, making sure that we're driving with the calcaneus as we do so. For the side to side movement, we're going to be doing this, and this is going to be loaded. Now you're going to notice that when we're doing this, we're lifting the whole of the medial portion, so the inside portion of the foot is coming up at once. So this is our inversion, and then we're going to take the whole of the lateral edge of the foot up at once. This is eversion. The reason I'm explaining what inversion and eversion is because you tend to have twice as much movement in this direction as you do in this direction, and that is completely normal. So we're just going to practice those for a few reps. So just in case that wasn't overly clear from the rear, which is where I was trying to show you the bone that we're working on, I wanted to show you this from the front as well. So we're going to go this way, and we're going to go that way. So you'll notice that the whole of the lateral portion is lifted this way, and the whole of the medial portion is lifted this way. So next we have the rotations to do, and we're going to use pronation and supination to do this. So this is pronation, where we're collapsing in that medial arch, and the calcaneus is rotating relative to the talus to allow this. And then we have supination, where it again is rotating in the opposite direction. So we pronate and we supinate. You'll notice when I'm doing this that the toes are trying to stay in contact with the floor the whole time that you're doing this. And again, we're going to do that for several reps. Okay, so pulling it all together now, we are in standing, so we are fully weight bearing as we're doing this. Now obviously you won't advance to this stage if you've had any problems with either doing it with the manual technique with your hands or in half kneeling. You want to get comfortable in those positions before you increase the loading through the foot as you're doing this. But to run you through, we're going to take you back, we're going to come forwards, fully loading, and back. Good, you do that for several reps. We're going to invert and evert, as do so, and then we're going to take you into pronation, supination, pronation, supination, making sure that you're working with your 3 points of contact the whole time, making sure that you're engaging the calcaneus at the correct time, making sure you're getting the movement at the calcaneus. You want your movement to be cued from the foot up the leg rather than you moving your knee around to make the movement happen at your foot. This is very much a foot-driven activity. Okay, so bonus content time. If you've managed to do your rotations and your inversion, eversion, okay, but you're still struggling to take this knee over the toes, we get a little sneak peek at some of the navicular work that we will be doing in the next video. So if we come back here, we can see the calcaneus and the talus, and this one here is navicular, and we're looking to open up this region here to allow the talus to internally rotate as we bring the tibia forward. So in order to facilitate that, I've got a band here which is positioned at an angle. As you can see, it's really important that you don't just take it straight back at this kind of angle. It has to be down to help position the talus in the correct orientation. As we come forward, we're going to track that knee over the big and second toe, but we're going to allow the foot to pronate. So we're opening up the space between the navicular, the talus, and the calcaneus. So as we come forward, we're coming into this position here, driving through the calcaneus to make sure that we have the appropriate point that we're pushing from. And you'll notice that there's a huge amount more motion in there. And then we can take it back. Always make sure you do both directions when you're doing this. We're going to settle there for a little bit. We're going to come forward, make sure that knee tracks correctly, take it into pronation, and you'll see again there's a little bit more movement in there.